Hey, welcome. So, doing a little impromptu stream in the new studio, still kind of getting things set up, hence the blank canvas behind me, and you'll see me dart my head around the place, getting used to the new kind of setup and how things are going. Hopefully the audio and everything is alright, and it's streaming. This is on a different network setup than I had before, so we'll see how this goes. And I always realized, actually, I never checked the YouTube stream or the, well, chats or comments thing, but we'll get anything because this is a very impromptu one, but sure, we'll keep this on the go and we'll keep an eye on both of them. So if you're on YouTube live or on Twitch, make sure to say hi, say hello, and when I get stuck trying to code this stuff, give me advice and tips and tricks. Now this is an interesting one for the Hello Drunk World series. I'm currently doing Sober October at this time, so there's no wine in this session, but we have a flask of water, so we'll see how it goes. Make sure to get the branding and everything on the go. So I'll try and keep these in check, but we'll see how it goes. So on today's stream, we are trying to recreate what I've managed to find. It's called as a text loop kind of animation, but we'll look at an example and we'll see how it goes. And we've got like a little kind of song that we can not replicate the song, but we can get a little like kind of looping voiceover thing that we can work on. If my network all works, so let's see. Right, so I'm gonna jump over the text. So we're gonna be recreating this. I thought this was a box. Let's get the library. So it's React text loop. And let's go to npm, and then let's grab the repo. Hopefully they have some examples in there. I think they have one, yeah. So what we're going to be recreating is this little kind of thing. So you have like, static text, and then there's a couple of words that change here and there. Just keeping an eye on everything. And the kind of words that we're going to be using is this part of the song. I think it'd be kind of cool if we have like I'm a static and then the rest like changes. And for this, we're going to be using this library. I listened to the Log Rocket podcast, but they call it Pod Rocket, I think. But they had the creators of this Atom XYZ library, and it looked like a really kind of cool way of doing like animations. I haven't a clue how to do animations in CSS, so having a library that can do it for me is quite cool. So we have a Vite app kind of set up with a little starter kit running here. So let's get this started up and we'll see what we're working with. So it's open in localhost random number 5173. Okay, fair enough. So let's see. So it has, I don't open the docs. So yeah, so it gives me this kind of starter kit. So we're going to get rid of all this boilerplate because we don't really care about that per se. So we'll get rid of this. Save. Okay, so now we have our screen. So we have H1. Hello. Oh, I can't type already. Hello, drunk-ish world. Now, this new space still needs to kind of get some warmth and heat into it, so my fingers are cold, and that's why my typing is a little bit fucked. So we gotta get hello drunk-ish world. So we want to recreate this example, but we want to be doing it with Atom XYZ. So I think probably the first things we want to do is import this and get set up with it. So we'll go to the documentation. So we've got the basics of by pulling, importing in. I know they have React integrations, and we're working with React, so let's kind of stick with that. I think I want to drag these over. I'm going to drag you out, take you over here. Yeah, that works. And then the same for you. We're going to drag you out and over here. And let's see. Yeah, okay, that looks good. That looks good. Just as I said, this was like an impromptu stream to kind of get things going and testing out video layout, everything. I think everything seems to be going well. We have like one viewer, which I think is just me viewing myself. But if you're watching along, say hi. Hopefully you can hear me okay, you can see me okay. So I've got some notes here from when I was doing some digging into this library. So I think we jump straight into the React integration. So we're gonna npm install React. So instead of having to kill this every time, we're gonna cd in code and we're gonna go to text-loop, and then we'll npm install the React binding for Atom XYZ. Yeah, I keep on calling it Atom XYZ. It's Atom XYZ. Yeah, so that's installed. We're using it. There's some code sandbox templates. We don't really care about this stuff. We don't read the docs. We just want to kind of skip through and figure out. So we've got this click the toggle and it does something with this box. So let's see if we can actually recreate that. So I'm assuming we need to we don't need state right now, but we actually might need it in a little bit. So we can get rid of that counter. Let's see. I think we can toggle this text in and out, and that can be our animation. So first we want to say import XYZ. Type this out, aren't I? XYZ, or just copy paste. So we'll grab this import, we'll bring this across, and then we actually want to use this. So again, we're just copy pasting their example in just so we can kind of get a feel for how things work. And so this should just show by default, and I don't think it does any animations. Refresh. If we refresh the page, yeah, it's not going to do anything. So as soon as based off this example, it's whether the item exists or doesn't exist that triggers the animation to be triggered. So I guess we want to toggle if this is shown or not, and this is, I guess, where our state is going to come in. So we're going to say create some state. So we're going to say const show and set show. It's going to be our use state, and it's going to be false by default. Again, we're going to need a button to trigger that for us as well, I guess. And this is a type. So like, I don't know, do you really need to explicitly say this is a boolean? I guess so, and we're now type saved. With that being inferred, I wonder. I'm kind of getting into TypeScript at the minute, so I'm kind of like picking up when I should and when I shouldn't type things. So let's see. So we have our transition. We want to have a button. So grab a button and we'll call this toggle. And then we want to actually toggle the element. So we can say on click. And this is going to say set. Come on, come on, VS Code, you're better than this. Set show, and this is going to be not the current show. Why am I not getting any IntelliSense in this? And then in here, we're going to say show and our element. we go back here. Ooh, yeah, styled the button for me, which was nice. So clicking that, it doesn't really animate it at all. We've done everything they have done. What are we missing? We have a transition group. Okay, that's okay. We're seeing fade, rotate right, ease back. We have our element. Is it because it's a H2, maybe? And the toggle works. That's actually, that's annoying that moves the button, so I'm going to move that above. Okay, it's centered and everything, so that's disappointing. So let's figure out what are we doing wrong here. Back to their docs. There's a whole load of shit about here. Oh, like blah 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 blah. Duration. Other trees. We recommend the workaround wrapping, so it has to be inside of a div, I assume. So let's wrap our H1 in a div. Save that. You piece of shit. Maybe it doesn't like H1s. Let's just change this to a span. Okay, let's go to the dev tools and see if we get any errors. We can probably drop this bottom. Bring this up. Bump the size of our dev tools. Go into console. So no errors showing up. Something is going on. So we have the exact same as them. So I did dig in and kind of see that there was some stuff wrong. So you have a transition. You have XYZ appear, toggle. Let's get rid of the span and just make this a div. Am I missing something? What? If they're, oh, let's wrap them. What is this app class? Maybe this is messing up something. Wait, we don't want. Right, let's get rid of things that we don't care about. And we have an index CSS. Don't care about links. Same with H1. I like that button style, so we're going to keep that button style. Okay. Has that changed anything? So everything's hot reloading, but it's not actually toggling based on the example. Whereas like this looks perfect, like that's toggling. If I go in here, there's copy. What is that copy to? Let's create a new file. Yeah, that's not going to work out of the box. Toggled and div. So let's go back to our app. So we import a transition. We're saying appear, XYZ, fade, rotate right, ease out back. We have a conditional div. We have a button that toggles the div. What are we missing? Looking at the example I had before. Here, toggle, XYZ transition, wrapped in a div. I wonder if I get rid of this app, does that change much? Cancel, get rid of this page. Don't want to save it. Hey Mike, welcome to the chat. So, if you missed the start, we're working on a rebuild of React Text Loop. So we're trying to get it to like cycle through these, but using Anim XYZ as our animation library. So let's actually read the docs, I guess, at this point and try and figure out what we're doing. So the component is a standard version of the transition script, blah, 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 blah. Only supposes similar props. Unlike the complexity of React transition script, only need to care about the appear visible duration and mode. I think there was something to do with mode that I fiddled the point with. So we bring this in. So there's a warning about due to the deprecation, we need the internal use blah blah blah. For this reason, we recommend workaround of wrapping all child components in a HTML element such as a div, which we're oh, maybe this should be inside of a div. So we wrap the entire thing in a div. Save this. Give this a refresh just for good measure. So it's showing it, but it's not animating it, which is interesting. So what do we need to do to add animations to this? So we look at the props. So up here, so, when set the true, we'll animate elements in on initial render. Let's get rid of, actually, if we default this to true, maybe. Give us a refresh. Still nothing. I wonder what it could be. Keep looking through. If rendering actually content below that, I have a feeling it's something to do with the CSS that's being pulled in for here. Like, there's a lot of like flex. That shouldn't really matter. You should be able to just drop it in anywhere, I would assume, and it should work. Let's try dropping in the example that I have. It in this. If only it was Svelte, yeah. I don't know enough Svelte yet to kind of dig into it. That's why I'm still stuck on the React bandwagon. They have a Vue integration, no Svelte yet, but I imagine it'd probably be the same, or you probably would just write raw CSS transitions. So let's drop in this one and reuse this show element, and in here we're going to just say we'll stick in the wave emoji since it's my go-to emoji for everything at the minute. Comment out this. So you're toggling show. I have a feeling there's some other classes or styles that are interacting with this. Like, looking at this, it probably should have some CSS keyframes or animations or something. So we have that item group. Oh, that's just the class name I gave it. So it's weird that it's not applying any transitions. I wonder, do they have like, they had a template that would probably be better digging into. So there's a React template on Code Sandbox. Let's dig in this to see how that works. So load that up. God, they love squares in these examples, I must say. So click the toggle, that changes that. So what is going on here? So here, rotate, blah, blah, blah. That's the first example. So we'll get rid of this other example. And let's isolate this. So they have that toggle. Okay, cool. They're using a transition. We're using a transition. And on clicking that button, they toggle that Boolean state, which we're doing as well. Button, and then they have that div. So this one worked before, so we'll stick with this. So we have fade, rotate, right, ease, out, back. Okay. And up here, so it matches that. What are their styles? Let's rip their styles off and replace our styles. So this pulls in index styles. This pulls in app styles. So we can get rid of app styles and we'll focus on index styles. Save that. Oh, you motherfucker. Why are you still not toggling? Am I missing something here? So we've copied the same styles that they have. Go to the app. Oh, yeah. I knew what it was. We didn't import the core library. We imported the React like add-on. So we can bring back our own styles actually. We'll go to our index.css CSS file and then we go back to app and we need to bring this in. And I guarantee this is going to start bringing this working. So refresh for good measure. Yep. So now it's okay. So that's what we were missing. We were missing that we need to bring this in as well as bringing this in. Which annoyingly, like, this should import core for you. Like if I'm using the React, I call it an add-on or a fixture or whatever you want to call it. That should handle the importing of the core for you. Why would you ever want to use this without that? But yeah, okay. So we have toggle. Okay, that's grand. Let's see, like, let's stick in some text. So we're going to change this to a H1. And I've yet to configure my VS Code to like work the way I want it to work. I use WebStorm like in my daily job, and it's like a curated product over the last 15 years that I've built up WebStorm that I work and act and feel like I want it to be, so I'm productive. But I'm not paying for WebStorm outside of work. So I'm using VS Code because it's free, but it doesn't work. It's a text editor, it's not an IDE, and I have to install like 100 plugins. Yeah, Mike, you pay for it. I did. So years and years ago, Mike, there was a discount for WebStorm on its own, and it was like £20/dollars or whatever. And I bought it at the time, and it only gave you 2 major updates, which was fine at the time. Like, it's all I needed. And then they moved to this like Adobe model where you have to pay monthly subscriptions, and the monthly subscription is a per product subscription. I was like, I'm not paying a monthly fee for a development tool that, you know, I'm using for hobby projects. If this gets heavier and more kind of off the ground, I might see the worth of paying for it. But for now, there must be like a guide of like, make VS Code be like WebStorm, and then you just apply a bunch of plugins and it works and acts the same. Like keyboard bindings and everything, they just suck out of the box. So hello, let's see, drunk-ish world. So let's save that. Yeah, the VS debugging in WebStorm is very, very good. Compared to like, I guess the alternative would be using the Chrome DevTools debugger and attaching to the node process, but then that's probably not amazing either. Okay, so we've got our text, and it's animating. It's not animating the way that I wanted to animate. Again, I want to recreate this effect. So this is going to be our like animated part. Then we want to like have static text. So we can keep our button for now for just toggling through stuff. So do I want to create a new component for this? Maybe. We'll build that all into one component. So we're going to create a new div because semantic HTML doesn't really matter in these kind of things. And then we're going to say, are we making it all H1s? No, that's a bit over the top. The pattern and everything. So we're going to have a span. So yeah, we're taking the idea of this, going through each of the words, but I want to use these lyrics as like the things that I'm iterating over from Meredith Brooks' Bitch. I always thought this was Alanis Morissette sang this song, but apparently I'm wrong. So we're going to want I'm a, and then this is going to be not a H1 anymore. This will be another span. And we'll probably style these spans to make them a little bit bigger and nicer. And we'll start off with I'm bitch. Their div. They're probably going to run into some styling issues, but we'll see. So yeah, they're kind of not aligned together. What do these elements look like in the inspector? So we have a div with that and that. So it's not nice, and I'm shit at CSS, but we're going to wrap this in another div. And we're going to call this our container. And then we're going to put these both inside of that. And my auto format and styles is not really working, or is it? Another thing, yeah, like I need to configure with VS Code is like a global editor config, because I like 4 spaces instead of 2 spaces. Yes, I'm that kind of person, but it's something I need to do. So we're going to call this our container. Yeah, I'm getting shit for 4 spaces, but I like it. Right, okay, prime example. I did like Command B to go into that CSS file, but it's giving me the definition. Okay, well, I have to enter to go there. So we're going to say display flex. Okay, display flex. We want to add some padding, so we're going to say this div is our static element, and this is going to have padding right of say 5 pixels. Just yeah, okay. And I guess we can actually bump up the font size in this as well. So we're going to say font size 2XL. Is there 3XL? Okay, cool. Probably push this down a bit as well. So we're going to say margin top 50 pixels. Okay, cool. So we got some styling. Yeah, my 2 spaces are the best. It's too close in. It's too close in. Like they're all very. It's hard to see like the indentation and where things are. Like that was, this was properly spaced in. So it would be like that, and then this div. Where's the open of this div? I don't like this div. Oh, we have a div. Yeah. So then this should be tabbed in like that. VS Code should be auto fixing this, but I digest. Yeah, so we have our static text, and then we have our like dynamic text. I guess we could do a bit more wider padding than that, say 10. Okay, cool. Then we need to then hold. I'm thinking on my head, like we need to hold an array of the different values it can possibly be. So these different values. So we'll create just a static constant array up here, and this is going to be our words, I guess. So we'll just copy and paste each across. first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So another 4. Copy these over. It's very exciting watching someone copy and paste, but we'll dig into more animation stuff soon. So we have our words, and we should be able to iterate over our words. And to test this out, if we say, instead of that being hard-coded, we're going to say words 0, jump back to our project. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's done that. And we're only animating that word. So now we can then figure out how we want to like rotate around them. So let's, before we get the animation thing, let's get the rotation part into play. So for the rotation, I'm assuming we're going to need to, on mount, start a timer of some sorts to like iterate through these words. And yeah, I guess someone joining into this right now, you're seeing a very random like bit of text, and we're making this switches over. I want to keep opening, making this font with those words. So yeah, so we're going to be iterating over. So we're going to need a use state or use effect actually, because we want to do this on the mount of the component. And instead of the boolean for toggling, this is actually going to be like, I guess like our index that we're showing. So let's rename this to index and set index, and by default it's going to be 0. Now this is no longer a boolean, it's a number. I guess TypeScript could infer that for me. I'm sticking it in just because it makes it look like I've written some TypeScript. We can get rid of our toggle button for now. So let's say use effect, and we're going to pass it a function, an empty dependency array because we only want it to run once. We're on React 18 probably, and this is probably going to run twice, but we were using a set timeout, so it's fine. So we'll return the clear of our set timeout, which we might need a ref to handle. We'll get into that. Yes. So we want to say set interval, because we want to do it every set period of time. So we're creating an interval. We want to say, I don't know, 300 for now. That might be too fast. So on every 300 milliseconds, we want to increase the index. And if it's at the end of our words array, then set it back to 0. So I guess we can say set index, and it needs to be a number. So we're going to say index plus 1. Now that'll keep going above what our value is. So we can say const new index equals this. And we can say in here, so we can say if new index is equal to the array length to words.length, then we give it 0, else new index. And now we need to set this to a value. I think we should use a ref, maybe? Use ref. So we'll create a ref for this. So we can say const interval equals use ref, give it null, and now we can say interval equals, is that how you set a ref? What the fuck you set a ref? Interval.current? Is that right? No, yeah, that's why it's not giving me IntelliSense, because I called use effect and not use ref. Use ref interval equals interval dot current equals, because it's a const, it's not gonna like it. React assign value to ref. Why do we? Yeah, input the current of value equals that. Then they put the ref on the input. Why did I just hold a variable? Did I just make it a variable? Just make it a const? Well, actually, it's gonna be a let. So let's change this to a let, and it just equals null by default. Type of implicitly any. That's okay for now. So then we can say interval equals that, and then because this is an effect, and I think it's going to run twice because of React 18 and the bullshit they pulled with the whole use effect stuff. We'll get into that. So we say return a function, and that's going to say clear interval, and it's going to be our interval. What was it? Command Shift K. That's an any. That return. What is the return argument of this? What does this take? It takes an ID, which is a number or undefined. So this is going to be a number. Oh, no. Number, or let's make it undefined, and then okay, that cleaned up the TypeScript side of things. It's very dirty doing an inline union. Probably should have like an interval type interval with a capital I equals number or undefined. And then we can say this interval is of type interval. That makes sense TypeScript wise, doesn't it? Yeah, I think so. So that interval, we assign it with our set interval. Every 300 milliseconds, it's going to increase the index. Whenever this use effect is unmounted, unmounted, it's going to clear the interval and then reinstate it. We're probably getting errors. Show is not defined. That is all right. Yeah, okay, yeah, inline minor types like that, but maybe, yeah. I'm still getting the grips of like TypeScript best practices, when to do and when not to do. Like prime example, we were looking at something in work recently. When you're doing a union, for two, I guess it's like this or this. But we've seen the interesting pattern where you would do it like this. So you would have the pipe if it's on a new line, but you wouldn't have the pipe here. It's valid, but it feels like you wouldn't do it. Where I kind of like, this, like this is defining what the union type is. Potentially, it allows for more growth than having it all in the one line and then having to decide at some point, I need to like break it into new lines. But Mike, you disagree. I think it looks wrong. So you're more of a keep this like that. Well, then you run into the, too many pipes in one line issue. But yeah, TypeScript. I feel like there's a massive kind of ecosystem around TypeScript, and maybe I'm just not reading the right docs or looking at the right channels, but it's just kind of getting the grips with like best practice around naming and stuff. And yeah, okay, if you like, I guess if you're using Prettier, you can, let it deal with stuff. But I'm a very opinionated developer, especially when it comes to styling. So I'd like to kind of like write a Prettier config that matches the way I like to write code. So at least we're all writing, well, the same way, which is my way, but it means that like I know why it's written that way. So okay, so let's complain about this show. if I take this away, is this going to do anything as this component changes? So that's static to words. So we want to do words. Index. And it did the React double render, didn't it? Yeah, they flew through those really quickly, so maybe I need to add another 0 onto that. And so save this, refresh the page. It's not animating. See, this is the thing, so it's not animating when the component like that part re-renders. Is there something with re-rendering the like to trigger the animation every time it re-renders instead of just, you know, having to show and hide the component every time? Because I guess we could do that, where you toggle the component off and on every time. So set the tree when animate elements in render. You can set appear specific behavior using the appear specific XYZ utilities. The active classes for information. So we'll open that in a new tab. Appear visible. You can say this property instead of appear, pause animation, blah blah blah, duration, mode. In, out, in. So there's different modes for this kind of stuff. I don't think the examples I was fucking up with before. Yeah, I don't think I said any modes, but I thought the modes potential was interesting. The class, okay, so you can toggle this class here, and that's not re-rendering the component. So this XYZ in out. So let's see. It takes a class prop with it or class name, or do I just set that on XYZ? If I save that, what happens? I don't know. I can add class names to this, I assume. What was the thing again? I clicked on that. So it appears true. What is the class? What is the values for appear? Let's go to the definition of this. And it doesn't give me any types. If I hover, it doesn't give me appear as a boolean. So property appear true. You can set appear specific behavior using the appear specific utilities and variables. Let's take appear off. And what does that do? Crash the page. It didn't animate it. Oh, okay, so unrelated question. Do you have any recommendations for getting materials together for a talk? What do you plan put together for your NIDC talk? What I'm planning to put together for my NIDev talk is still an unknown to myself. I think, yeah, like in general, like give like talks and tech talks specifically. I think starting off, and I think I've clicked to it, is obviously starting off with, like, you know, obviously you have the topic, you have like your kind of like proposal. Mine's is on. I can pull up the actual example. NIDevConf, and I'm watching along and watching afterwards. Hopefully before the conference actually happens, you know, check out NIDevConf. Let's see, Chris. Am I the only Chris? Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, so mine is on batteries might be included. The idea and principles around the whole like I'm using Vite to build this like example project. I could have created my own Webpack config and set a bunch of shit up, but that probably would have taken an hour worth of my time. Whereas I can just run like create React app, create Vite app, create whatever, Vue, Svelte, all those kind of frameworks. Where this is kind of like, you know, do you need those created tools do you need? Do you need to configure Webpack? Do you need to know how that works under the hood? Is it a cheat using Next or Angular, or should you be using a very unopinionated framework like React or like Vue, or I think Svelte maybe unopinionated? I'm not sure really what comes in the books with it. So I think my approach for like writing this talk is going to be mainly focused around. I'll jump into like the main chat here. Or have I done the wrong one? Nope, yeah, I did the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. I think my approach is not knowing how to work my tools. That's what my approach is. There we go, yeah. So my approach for this is kind of like how I think about, building things up. And I think my first protocol of because it's, looking at different frameworks, I'm going to pull down like the starter kit for every framework agnostic tool, every framework specific tool that I can find, compare, what does it give you that others don't? So I don't know if it's still the state of play with Angular. I'm pretty sure it is, but when I did Angular before, it was in like v1.x, when it was Angular JS, and now it's Angular, and it gave you a lot of things out of the box. You didn't have to use Access or Fetch. It had its own HTTP fetching library. It had, back then anyway, it had jQuery built in. It had the likes of frameworking around scaffolding, templating, state management. It did all those things for you. That's really awesome, but you're potentially like coding yourself into like a very rigid box, and you're dependent on the framework creators to make good decisions and steer you in the right direction. So comparing that with the likes then of like what I like in like the React, I can create a React project from scratch with no opinions, no boilerplate, no tools. That's good in the sense that I get to choose what goes into that project, and I get to kind of tailor it to my needs. Like Angular has RxJS built in. If I don't need streaming and observables, then I don't want that in the code base. I don't want it muddying up the things and potentially putting people off the wrong path. So if I can, pick and choose what I want, that's so much better. It keeps my code base lighter. It's easier to review code, PRs, stop people from using things that they potentially don't need. You don't need to install everything from npm. You can write things yourself. The downside again to that is I need to know what is the things that I should use. And I'm actually just explaining in the talk at the minute, not to explain how I kind of prepare for the talk. So looking at what is the story you're trying to tell with your talk? Is it are you saying like, this is something that I used and it's cool? So you need to then kind of think, right, maybe give a little bit of history about the thing, where it came from, how you discovered it, what made you use it. Then build out like examples, look at the pros and the cons, that kind of basic-ish enough stuff. Then or if it's you had this philosophy about doing something, you back it up, show examples. Live code demos are good, but you're in a conference center, you're not guaranteed the Wi-Fi, you're not guaranteed like connection. Your machine's gonna install and update the minute before you stand on stage. So like having like slides that you can access online from any machine easily is the keyword there as well. Like I use slides.com. Let's see if I get the right one to bring it back to the actual talk. But no, I did the wrong one again, didn't I? Let's see. Talk. Okay, cool. I think I'm still live. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. So I use slides.com for all my slides. It was funny enough. Slides.com comes up top, and then Google Slides below. Like, come on, Google, I know we're pushing your own products, but you're building your slides in Svelte. Yeah, I did that once. What was the talk I gave? I used Code Sandbox to build my slides in a React framework. See if I need to sign in GitHub. I think I'm already off. If I go to all sandboxes, Code Sandbox keeps on changing shit up so much, so I have like recents. But yeah, it was like I used like it was a Code Sandbox, and there was React Slides library, I think. Yeah, there was like some React framework that you could build slides out with. And what happened was I spent more time writing code to make my slides look cool than actually just building my slide deck. If your talk is about building things with the technology, then yeah, go for that kind of example. Like the talk I gave was about the idea of like, doing everything in the browser, so not having to have an IDE or like a local environment. So I did the entire thing using a Chromebook. So I like wrote the code for the slides in Code Sandbox. So I was able to like show Code Sandbox off as like an actual environment that I could use, as well as that I built like an application in Code Sandbox. And the whole idea was like, I had this online IDE. I never needed an actual real machine. But then I kind of like, the one thing that happened was like the Wi-Fi didn't exist or sucked really badly in the company office. And I was like, right, I think I can cache this offline. And Sandbox was being really funny, and then all my GIFs didn't load. And then I had to like I had a hotspot from my phone, and then I was terrified I like run out of data. And there's this whole mess where like I spent more time fucking about with the slides live with people than actually like showing the slides and giving the talk. So that's fair. My favorite was the content could be quite dry, so I wanted to make it pretty. You can make it pretty without having to write it yourself. If you can write it yourself and make it pretty, go for it. Like slides.com, like it's advanced enough now that you can like do really cool shit. And it doesn't have offline caching, which I think Google Docs or Google Slides do, but the premium version allows it. I think the premium version is like a $5, and then you can cancel after the first month. So you could like pay a $5 for that guarantee of having offline capabilities. So you potentially kind of like get in that kind of way, and then you're kind of thinking more about the content, like what you're going to write, and what memes you're going to fire in there. Like, plaster as many memes as you can, in that kind of way. So let's figure out what I'm doing here. So I had an example here before. It was easy, blah, blah, blah. Toggle on the word in and out. So I think I need to toggle it in and out and bump the index, potentially. Set index, toggle. Yeah, so I think the example I did before, I flipped the toggle as well. Yeah, the memes are kind of... No, don't worry about throwing me off. Like, it's good having interaction, these kind of things, and going off in tangents is the whole point. Need to learn how to do this and also like talk and answer questions at the same time, but yeah, I don't know. Finding memes are really good and fun. Finding memes that are meaningful can be difficult. It's easy to just go to like program humor on Reddit and pull in a bunch of memes. Getting them kind of related to your talk, and it's usually like the self-deprecating memes and the self-deprecation in general work really well. So like, so memes around NoSQL databases. So what I would do is like find a bunch of memes that like shit all over SQL in general, like a traditional like SQL database, because people seem to shit all over them all the time, and then find ones where it's like NoSQL is like the god, or potentially like NoSQL is like it was predicted to be the god. Because yeah, I think I remember your talk was about CouchDB, and yeah, NoSQL databases is a big thing at the minute. I see a lot of to and fro. You get the whole I love them because I'm a JavaScript developer, and I like the dynamic nature of like I can just create an object and I can just throw shit into it. I think you run into issues then when you scale, and it's like, what if I have a million records and they all look very, very different, and some have this key, some don't have that key. How do I index? And I'm sure you'll address all these kind of concerns as part of the talk. But I think that's like what really puts people off, because you need to kind of think about the future of this. Whereas, as rigid as a SQL database is, it kind of forces you down a path of like, I hate to say, like normalization and primary keys and doing all that kind of shit. And it's just like, it slows you down at the start, but does it save you the hassle in the end? Or does like a NoSQL DB allow you to like move really quick at the start? And is the technology grown to the point now where like it doesn't matter? Like we can like set a key or a query or whatever they call, like, say like this is something I can search on, and it's like indexed, that was the term I'm looking for. Like I think that the likes of like Elasticsearch and these kind of tools where like, you can add shit. I guess you have to like re-index your whole thing and like re-ingest data into it and stuff. Do you then have to kind of do the same thing with NoSQL? The only experience I have with the NoSQL is the likes of like MongoDB, and I did enjoy MongoDB. I thought it was quite cool. I just wonder how it's kind of grown and advanced over the time. So we set the toggle, then we do that. So we can probably do the same here. So let's say set show to be true. Did I ever set show to be false? Set show to be false. Okay, and then actually that should be false, and this should be true. And then I go set timeout, give set timeout another function, and then I guess we'll go for the same. We'll go for smaller seconds or milliseconds. Versus being someone who's 34 and programmed for 15 years, I do not know off the top of my head the conversion rate between milliseconds and seconds, and I like unashamedly have to like Google that on like a monthly basis. There's like milliseconds and seconds. Like fuck, like I get milliseconds is the lower denomination here, but there should be like a set timeout that takes seconds so that I just don't have to fucking think about it. So we shift this into here, and I guess we say set show to be true. Let's see. That's another stream. Every every JavaScript library that takes milliseconds, but it takes seconds, and it's just a wrapper around it. We'll call it like slow set timeout. SQL is still better, and like yeah. I always remember I worked with some people before, and they had like document databases, and I wonder, is like that taken off much more? Where like instead of saving like structured data and something that you can query, like you just save like files and you access those files, and those files are technically like your records. I think that could be interesting. So we have to toggle it open and closing. Okay, Couch is a document storage. Interesting. Show, and let's see if this does anything. Refresh. Oh, okay. It's gonna not increase the word. Why is it just sticking at lover? Because I think index is not the index value that we want. You can store stuff in your browser to local storage, and then using space magic, make it appear in the DB. This is the thing. So up until now, I've only ever used local storage and session storage. We've got application. So we have local storage, session storage. Every podcast I listen to at the minute, everyone seems to be talking about IndexedDB as a way of storing information. I don't know if it's just because like you can actually store like real data in a database instead of having to like JSON stringify everything with the likes of like local storage or session storage. It feels like it's a real database, like, but it still is in the browser. If I like skim this over, like, it doesn't sync to a backend potentially. Like, you can create things in it. So I know, like, the likes of, like, heavy tools, like Excalidraw and other shit like that. Is that without to think? Yeah, like, I wonder, like, could you somehow write a service worker that watched your IndexedDB and say, like, every time, I was gonna say every time you were about to go offline, but I wouldn't be able to capture that. Like, every time you came online, it synced it with, like, a DB on the back end, or every time you, like, became active, it would sync. So it wouldn't be constantly syncing, but it was almost like you had, like, cloud storage backup. If you had, like, say, a local media server that backed up to, like, the cloud. Yeah, okay, that's what PouchDB does. Am I like somehow inventing these technologies that already exist because I've probably read about them or listened to a podcast that explained the exact same thing to me, and now I'm pretending that I invented this? Yeah, so I think, like, the index is not the index I think it is. So if I console.log this, I imagine it's going to increase it once and it's never going to increase it again. So we'll refresh this. Why is that not even logging? Oh, 0, 0, yeah. There's always adding 0 to it, so I need to add that in here because I need to recreate those functions every time. I think. Bitch. Lover. Child. Mother. Okay. Right, it's not doing the animation that I wanted to do, but we're animating it. Saint, and then it should go back to bitch. Yes, okay, awesome. So we have what we were trying to do. And I think I did have an animation that kind of like did the ease, rotate right, ease out, back. I think, is there like a fade up and out? Something like that, what I'm trying to get. Being disconnected from internet is rare. Yes-ish. So I'm repeating the stuff for people who are going to watch this back later, but you're not going to watch back like a fucking an hour and 7-minute long video. Being disconnected from the internet is rare. Yes, in our modern world that we live in. And actually not even the modern world. Like, I'm out my, like, home garden office and I'm on an extender Wi-Fi, but my phone, like, refuses to, like, respect that extender Wi-Fi and keeps on, like, trying to connect to my main Wi-Fi that is too far away and a bit laggy, or tries to connect to, like, my 2G extender for, like, smart home devices, which is laggy as shit, and it keeps on cutting out. So having, like, and I've never created an offline available app or something that, what do you call it? Progressive web app. I've never created a progressive web app in my life. I don't know how to do that kind of shit, but smart people do. Having that ability, like, you jump on the subway and you disconnect from whatever you're working with, it saves your progress. Service worker then sends it up whenever you reconnect. Like, I don't know, say you're filling out an employee feedback form while you're rushing home from work because you're about to miss the deadline of submitting that. You're using something like an Airtable configuration that's connected via, I don't know, to like Buddy-base or something like that. And you want the offline availability to, like, say, like, you hit the subway, you write your massive feedback, you hit submit, it acts like it's submitted it. Yeah, and a very odd, like, it was one of the first kind of, like, no-code frameworks that kind of came to mind that uses these kind of connections, and you can connect different products together. So then when you come back out of the subway, in the background it reconnects and submits that, and you don't miss that deadline of not giving your employee feedback or whatever. But yeah, interesting, different tools out there that can do different things. Let's have a look at their docs. And the animations that we fade. I want to slide it up. There must be like, so we have fade. Oh, we can fade up and fade out. That's not too bad. That's fade. Transform, maybe? So that is flipping it. Here. Perspective, origin timer. It's one of these weird things. There's no like transition things in, like up and down. Like I want to like hit this slight down, maybe down, and then down again. So like from the top in. So I think it's probably not going to be fade. It's probably going to be transition. And that's on translate. Let's see what's rotate. I'm assuming it's going to rotate it. Scale. Unless I'm losing my mind, they all seem to be doing the exact same fucking animation. Like, what the hell's going on here? It'd be awesome if they had like a playground where you could like toggle all these off and on. Basics, practical examples, potentially. Yeah, those ones on the top, are they slid in? No. Those go back to the page. Oh, they're kind of expanded out. Stagger. What's the stagger do? No. I did have an example, didn't I? I saw something. Inherit left up. There is like up. So what if I say fade up? What does that do? Okay. Doing something different. I don't know if it's fade. I don't think fade is the right one because it's fading in. The transform. Okay, there's fade down. And now there was a duration, I think, as well. So I think I can slow this down. Duration. So let's give us. I have TypeScript running. VS Code is built for TypeScript, but it cannot autocomplete that there is a duration. Oh, maybe we can copy pasta this. It has an in and an out. Refresh for good measure. Okay, getting a bit of ghosting with the last one, but we're kind of getting close to where we are. So on the out, it's changing. It changes the word, so it shouldn't be changing to the word on the way out. It should be, I guess, keeping that word and then changing. So it's that time of 300. So we set show to false, that should fade out. Then, okay, maybe we set it to the new word and then show it. No, that's still doing the same thing. We need to bump that up as well. I don't know. Playing shot in the dark here, see what happens. Maybe a bit too slow. Come on. Are you gonna change? Maybe not. That's the false. That's the new. Okay, let's change that back. Maybe we extend that a bit longer. Because that's 2 seconds. This is okay. This is working the way I want it to work. Now we are getting that shift, and I guess we could probably do something with that. But I kind of like the shift. It's kind of like, you know. So I think we can bring that instead of that 2000. Let's make that 1. Make it feel a bit faster. So then. This needs to work a little bit faster, so make that 2, make that 2. So pause. We can maybe make that a little bit faster. Let's refresh this to see what it looks like. Okay, that's a little bit nicer because it stops it from moving it a little bit. Okay. So now we can clear that. Let's give this a class name. Something really meaningful of Word. And let's go to our CSS file here. Give it a color. I have this idea of like a yellow that can work really well with that background. I'm not really sure which yellow it'll work with. A dark orange, maybe? Okay. Very it's very much like my fucking slides.com slides. You see, like their templates. They have like that exact orange. Okay, cool. So now we have that. We've recreated it using Atom XYZ. Yeah, okay, very interesting. Now, potentially I could then turn this into a reusable component that takes in an array of words and then a static word or static string. Potentially as well, it could take in custom overrides for the animations or the directions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, okay, cool. So this is very interesting. First kind of step back into the stream, the new setup, the new office. It was great to have you following along, Mike. Good luck with the preparation for NIDC. I have yet to actually prepare myself or even start on the slide deck or do any of the research that I promised I was going to do. And it is now the 7th. And we have to talk on the 22nd. So it's going to be very interesting. And I guarantee you that we're probably speaking at the same time as well. So we'll not see each other's talks. The agenda is up if you haven't seen it. You can check out to see when you're going to be talking. Let's see. Oh, mine's is moved already. So whatever they have here is not definite. Yeah, my talk is already shifted around time-wise. So awesome, yeah. Thanks for watching along. Hope to be getting back into these regular, trying out new things. Got some other cool YouTube series stuff planned as well, so it's all going to be on go kicking off in the new studio. But